You don't attract what you want, you attract what you radiate. I was always struck by those people who don't try so hard, who don't beg, who don't chase, and yet everything flows for them. They get jobs without sending hundreds of resumes. They connect with people without forcing conversations. They receive proposals, invitations, opportunities, as if the world were complicit with their vibration. At first it bothered me. I thought I had to do more, prepare more, prove more, but the more I tried, the less happened. Until I realized that the problem wasn't what I was doing, it was what I was emitting. This book is not to teach you how to make money. It's to help you become someone who no longer chases it, because their energy alone attracts it. There's a truth that no one teaches you in school, and it's that money, people, ideas don't arrive by logic. They arrive by affinity. Life doesn't respond to what you desire. It responds to what you hold in your energetic field. You can say you want abundance, but if your energy emits fear, scarcity, urgency, that's what you're going to keep seeing. It's not a punishment, it's a mirror, because reality doesn't adapt to your affirmations. It adapts to your frequency. I confirmed this when I met someone, a woman with a very calm presence. She didn't talk about being a millionaire. She didn't repeat phrases from books. But everything around her was abundance. Not ostentatious, but natural, surrounded by beauty, time, peace, freedom, as if she had understood something I hadn't yet grasped. I asked her how she managed to make everything flow like that, and she only told me one phrase that I haven't been able to forget since. I don't ask for things to come. I just make sure to be where what I want wants to be too. That's when I understood that it's not about thinking big or vibrating positively out of obligation. It's about becoming coherent with what you want to receive. And that shows in your body, in your rhythm, in your rest, in how you walk, how you listen, how you decide. Being magnetic isn't magic. It's unfragmented emotional presence. And that kind of presence isn't trained with effort. It's activated with truth. If there's tension, there's no magnetism. If there's anxiety, there's no reception. If there's fear, everything that arrives escapes. Your only task isn't to chase. It's to tune your field. Raise your frequency to the level where abundance already exists. And when you achieve that, you don't have to go after things, because things begin to come toward you not by luck, but by attunement. Chapter 2. Money doesn't listen to words. It reads your energy. There are people who don't need to ask, because what they emit is already an answer. Think of Oprah Winfrey, a woman who was born in extreme poverty, suffered abuse, discrimination, abandonment, and yet today represents one of the greatest presences of abundance and magnetism in the world. Not because of what she says, but because of what she radiates. When you hear her speak, you don't need her to convince you. You already know there's something in her energy that orders you, that elevates you, that transmits clarity, security, and value. That's the kind of energy money can't ignore. Now let's compare with something closer. Do you know someone? A good person, hardworking, intelligent, repeats affirmations every day, writes their goals, takes courses, reads finance and abundance books, but lives in eternal financial tension. Why? It's not that they're doing things wrong. It's that their body, their vibration is saying something else. They can say, I am abundant, but their energy emits, I'm afraid of not making it. I'm not sure if I'm worth enough. I don't want to be rejected. And the universe doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your real emotional frequency. The energetic field, what you emit without realizing it, speaks before you do. And that's what others and money perceive. That's why there are people who, without trying so hard, receive. Because they're not in prove to me I'm worth it mode. They're in I already know what I am mode. And that kind of vibration summons, invites, attracts. You don't need to be famous to have that energy. But you do need to organize what you're emitting without realizing it. Because every time you talk about money, your back tenses up. If you charge and feel guilty, if you receive something good and think it won't last long, then that's what you're planting in the field. And the field responds with exactness. This isn't solved by repeating phrases, but by observing your body, recognizing your fear, and training a more coherent emotional presence. Because when your energy and your desire say the same thing, the universe has no choice. It responds to you. In the next chapter, you're going to understand how to activate your magnetic field from the simplest place, from your body, your breath, your internal state. Because before attracting wealth, you need to learn to inhabit yourself. And that starts inside. Chapter 3. Activating the inner magnet. Your body is a magnetic field. Your body doesn't just move, it radiates. And if it's not aligned, your energy won't be either. You could have the best idea, the best intention, the most beautiful words, but if your body isn't emitting that vibration, if it's collapsed, tense, or disconnected, the energetic field around you doesn't receive the complete message. And then what you attract isn't what you desire. It's what your body is emitting in silence. I saw this clearly in Carolina, an intelligent, empathetic, dreaming woman, but she always arrived at sessions saying, "I feel like nothing I want materializes." And it was true, but not because she didn't desire it strongly enough, but because her body wasn't available to receive, always hunched over, shoulders forward, shallow breathing, downcast gaze. Her body didn't say, "I'm ready," it said, "I'm on the defensive." And her energetic field replicated it. Magnetic energy begins with the way you inhabit your body. It's not about appearance, it's about energetic posture. Your body is the antenna, and if it's blocked, the signal doesn't arrive clearly. Let's make it practical. How should your body be to activate real magnetism? Erect spine without rigidity. It's not being stiff like a statue, it's being present. The straight spine allows energy to rise freely from the base earth toward the crown heaven. That activates what many traditions call the central channel, your internal axis, your line of power, open shoulders, not dropped. When your shoulders are collapsed forward, the body enters protection mode and the nervous system interprets, "We're in danger." That closes your magnetic field. By opening your shoulders, without exaggeration, you tell your body, "I'm available, I'm safe, I can receive." Chest elevated gently, not inflated. The open heart is a very powerful magnetism point. Don't push it, just let it breathe. A chest slightly projected forward with softness emits presence and confidence. Deep and fluid breathing. If your breathing is shallow, your field is weak. Breathing is the bridge between what you think and what you project. Practice inhaling in 4 counts, holding for 2 and exhaling in 6. This activates the parasympathetic system and calms your energy instantly. Feet supported on the ground. If your feet are tense, crossed, or misaligned, your body doesn't feel grounded, and your energy remains floating, scattered, fragile. Stand with your feet parallel, separated at hip width, and repeat mentally, "I am here and here is safe." Open gaze without fleeing the present. Your eyes don't need to stare fixedly, but they shouldn't constantly escape downward or to the side either. The gaze is a channel of energetic presence. Holding it with softness is an act of emotional magnetism. Do this practice every morning for 3 minutes. Stand in front of a mirror. Adopt this posture without tension, without effort, just awareness. Breathe deeply and repeat, "My body is ready and my field is already radiating what I am." Do it for 7 consecutive days and start noticing how your vibration changes even before speaking. You don't need to convince anyone. Your body, when aligned, is already emitting confidence, clarity, and silent power. And the field feels it. Being magnetic doesn't start with what you do, it starts with how you're sustaining yourself in you. Because what you radiate doesn't just come from your words, it comes from your internal posture. And when that posture is authentic, open, and firm, everything that resonates with you starts to approach without you having to chase it. In the next chapter, you'll discover why sometimes the more you desire something, the more it moves away. And not because you don't deserve it, but because you're chasing it from a frequency that can't sustain it. Prepare to understand why true magnetism also knows how to wait. Chapter 4. When you chase more, you push away more. Nothing that's destined for you will respond to fear disguised as hurry. There's something that's hard to accept, but when you understand it, everything changes. Intense desire often blocks arrival, and not because desire is wrong, but because you're desiring it from scarcity. I saw it once with someone close, a friend who had been trying to set up his business for years. He read everything, took courses, worked non-stop, but everything he created fell apart. Clients who left, payments that didn't arrive, ideas that never quite materialized. One night, frustrated, he told me, "I'm doing everything right, but I feel like the more I try, the further everything gets." And he was right, because although his actions were correct, his energy was urgency, fear, desperation. And that vibration isn't attractive to anything, not to people, not to money, not to the universe. There's an invisible law we've all felt at some point. When you chase from lack, you push away what you long for, no matter how many hours you work or how much you desire it. If your energy is saying, "I need it now because I can't be without it," then you're vibrating from lack, and the energetic field interprets, "It's not safe for this to arrive yet." Have you ever been near someone who tries too hard to please you? Who forces conversation? Who needs your attention all the time? Does it attract or exhaust? Money reacts the same way. Opportunity reacts the same way. When you're centered, you don't run, you don't beg, you don't push. And curiously, that's when things start to move on their own. Wayne Dyer said it like this: abundance isn't something you get, it's something you tune into. And you can't tune in if you're fighting with time, with life, with fear. Your magnetism grows when you trust in your value before seeing the results. Because if you're only at peace when you already have it, then your energy isn't magnetic, it's conditional. And conditional energy doesn't attract, it controls. The moment you stop chasing isn't passivity, it's energetic maturity. It's the moment where you start to attract, not because of what you do, but because of what you're already capable of sustaining without urgency. And when you get there, life starts to deliver things you couldn't even sustain before, because you no longer need them to complete you. You just recognize them as part of what naturally already comes toward you. In the next chapter, you're going to discover what the true base of magnetism is: emotional coherence. Because only when you stop living divided inside can your energy become so stable that everything around you starts to organize itself too. Chapter 5. The Silent Power of Coherence. The world doesn't respond to what you pretend to be, it responds to what you can really sustain without breaking. There's a type of power that doesn't make noise, that doesn't need to convince, and yet it orders everything around it. That power is coherence. Think of a river. If the water goes in one direction, it flows with force, clean, unstoppable. But if it divides, if it bifurcates, if it crashes against itself, it loses momentum. It gets tangled, it stagnates. Our energy works the same way. When what you think goes one way, what you feel goes another, and what you do goes a third way, the result is one: energetic incoherence. And incoherence interrupts magnetism. A real example: Maria, a client who came looking to attract more money, said she wanted independence, but every time she made decisions, she asked for permission. She wanted to charge more, but spoke with guilt. She dreamed of being free, but acted like someone waiting to be approved. In words, she wanted abundance, but in vibration, she couldn't sustain it. Coherence isn't perfection. It's that minimum viable emotional alignment, where your body, your emotion, and your action are looking at the same place, even if it's with fear, even if it's trembling. The important thing is that they're not fighting each other. There are people who have a lot of talent, but they're not believed. Not because they don't know, but because their energy says, "I'm not ready." And there are others who, without so many titles, inspire confidence instantly because their vibration is congruent. There's no doubt, no double discourse, no fragmentation. And that's magnetic. Coherence is felt in how you stand, in how you look, in how you respond when you don't know what to say. And money notices it. You can do 1,000 affirmations a day, but if afterward you charge with fear, if you give more than you can sustain, if you betray yourself in silence, all of that interrupts the field, not because you're weak, but because your internal system is divided. That's why before asking the universe for new things, ask yourself, can I sustain what I say I want? Or do I still vibrate in fear, doubt, or contradiction? Coherence is trained. It's not achieved all at once, but the more you sustain it, the more you become yourself. And that's something no one can ignore, not people, not money, not life. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about your story, about how what you lived and what you emotionally inherited is affecting your ability to attract abundance today, because magnetism also has memory. And if you don't clean your field of the past, you'll keep repeating it even without wanting to. Chapter 6. How your energetic history affects your financial present. You can't attract what you still fear, nor sustain what your history taught you to reject. Sometimes it's not what you do today, it's what your body learned years ago. And as long as you don't review it, you'll keep repeating it without knowing why. Laura was 39 years old. Professional, brilliant, spiritual, generous, but money always escaped her like water through her fingers. Every time something good arrived, something unexpected came up, a debt, an urgency, a silent guilt. In one conversation, something simple but revealing came out. Her mother, her whole life, talked about money as a problem, as a source of arguments, stress, sacrifice. And in her body, Laura had associated wealth with emotional tension. So every time money arrived, her nervous system entered into conflict because part of her desired it. but another part feared it. This isn't theory. It's neuroscience and cellular memory. The nervous system remembers, and your energetic field keeps responding to the past as if it were still real. If, as a child, you saw that abundance brought fights, that whoever had money was judged, that asking was bad or that receiving was dangerous, then it's likely that today, without realizing it, you keep rejecting what you say you want so much, not by decision, but by emotional loyalty. But here comes the practical teaching. Your history can't be changed, but it can be rewritten in your body. How? With a simple practice called conscious reassociation. It works like this. Remember a scene from your childhood related to money, where you felt fear, guilt, or shame. Bring attention to your body. Observe if there's tension, closure, short breathing. Stay there without changing it, just observing. Now imagine the same scene but with a different response, more compassionate, stronger, freer. Breathe deeply again, slowly, with your feet supported. Say quietly, "This was real, but it no longer defines me." It's not about erasing the past, but about freeing your body from the weight of repeating it. Every time you do this, your energy recalibrates, and the field starts to open new doors, because what before was an invisible trap starts to become a path back to your power. Your history doesn't condemn you, but it does speak to you. And only when you stop to listen to it can you choose something different. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how your magnetism isn't built from the future you dream of, but from the presence you inhabit now. Because true attractive energy doesn't come from what you hope to have, it comes from how you're being, even before it arrives. Chapter 7. Magnetism is trained in presence, not in the future. You don't attract what you visualize with anxiety. You attract what you can sustain without tension. Now, one of the most common traps of personal growth is turning the future into a magical promise. When money comes to me, then I'll be at peace. When I have more time, I'll take better care of myself. When I achieve that goal, I'll finally feel valuable. And meanwhile, you forget the only place where real magnetism occurs, the present. I saw this clearly in Daniel, an engineer, father of 2 children, very spiritual. He had been working on his financial mindset for years. He visualized, meditated, repeated affirmations, but he lived tense, impatient, and above all absent, always thinking about the next step, about what was missing, about what hadn't arrived. One day in consultation, after talking for an hour about his plans, I asked him, "And how are you today?" He stayed silent and told me, "I don't know, I don't stop to think about it." That's when I knew. He wasn't in his life, he was in his projection. And that's what often cuts magnetic flow. Because while you live running after an ideal you, your energy keeps emitting absence, lack, emptiness, and the universe responds with more waiting. Magnetism is trained in presence, not in thinking more, but in inhabiting more. There are people who don't need to have everything solved, and yet their way of being, of breathing, of looking transmits to you that they're whole, and that integrity is felt. Your true power of attraction isn't in how much you've read, but in how much you can be with yourself without wanting to flee. You don't need perfection, you just need to inhabit yourself with truth. Because when you're in yourself, ideas arrive, clarity returns, and the field starts to respond. Simple but profound exercise at any time of day. Take a pause and ask yourself, am I here or am I in the future again? Then breathe, observe your posture, relax your face and say quietly, "I am," and that's already enough. Do this 3 times a day for a week, and you'll see how your presence changes. And with it, your field. Real magnetism isn't in what you say you're going to do tomorrow, it's in how you inhabit yourself today. And when today becomes habitable, the future starts to seek you out. In the next chapter, we'll talk about inner silence, and how that space that so many fear is actually the place where all true magnetic energy is gestated. Because in noise there's no power, but in silence everything starts to vibrate differently. Chapter 8. Silence as a generator of magnetism. You don't need to fill all the spaces. You need to become someone who can sustain them without breaking. In today's world, we've been made to believe that everything powerful must sound loud, that whoever speaks more wins, that whoever moves more achieves more. But magnetic energy doesn't respond to that noise. In fact, true magnetism is born in silence. Years ago, I worked with a woman named Teresa, executive, brilliant, a respected voice in her industry. But something curious happened with her. Every time she was in a negotiation room, She talked more than necessary. She tried to fill every space, justify every proposal, close all the gaps with words. And although her content was impeccable, time and again she lost important deals. One day in the middle of a session, she looked at me and said, "I feel like my urgency to convince scares away what I want to attract." And she was right, because whoever can't sustain silence emits urgency, and urgency interrupts magnetism. Now think of someone like Morgan Freeman. He doesn't need to raise his voice or talk too much. His mere pause, his breathing, his waiting already attracts attention, not because of what he says, but because of the space he can sustain before saying it. Magnetic silence isn't passivity. It's presence without anxiety. It's power that doesn't prove itself but is felt. And that's something you can train, because in your day-to-day you also fill spaces. You respond quickly so you don't look bad. You justify your prices. You explain your decisions even when they don't ask you. But what if you learn to wait half a second more before speaking? To breathe instead of justifying? To allow the other to see you without defending yourself? That half second can change everything. Simple but powerful exercise. During this week, in every important conversation, take a 2-second pause before responding. Breathe and don't say anything until you feel you're speaking from the center, not from hurry. And observe how your field, your tone, your body, your presence changes. At first it will seem uncomfortable, but afterward you'll feel something new. Energetic authority. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space where true power can enter, and whoever can inhabit it starts to bring more with less. Because their field no longer depends on proving, it depends on sustaining. In the next chapter, we're going to explore the most challenging concept for any magnetic being, detachment. Because only when you can let go of what you most desire without losing yourself, do you become capable of sustaining it when it finally arrives. And that separates the one who forces from the one who truly summons. Chapter 9. The Art of Letting Go Without Giving Up. What you chase with fear hides, but what you can let go with confidence starts to seek you out. There's an image I never forget. A man standing at the edge of a river, with his hand squeezing a stone. He holds it tight with all his energy, because he believes that stone is the key to crossing to the other side. But the more he squeezes, the less he can move. The less he can use his hands to swim, to balance, to flow. This stone represents everything we can't let go of. The fear of losing control, the exact result. The plan we thought was perfect, and that's what keeps us trapped. Andrea wrote to me after hearing one of my workshops. She had been visualizing a different life for years. She said she was ready for abundance, for a new partner, for another lifestyle, but everything was stuck. Relationships that didn't progress, businesses that fell through, energy that didn't take off. After an accompaniment process, she realized something simple but crucial. She couldn't receive the new because she still had a clenched hand, clinging to the old. Inherited fears, promises that were no longer valid, an identity that told her, "This is what you are. And more than this isn't safe." Letting go isn't abandoning desire, it's stopping pushing it from control. It's telling the universe, "I already asked, I already planted. Now I trust in the rhythm this needs to arrive." And that trust emits a very different vibration from anxiety. There's a phrase attributed to the sage Laozi that summarizes this with extraordinary precision. By seeking it with insistence, you don't find it. But by remaining in stillness, it arrives on its own. It doesn't mean not acting. It means acting without internal friction, from a place of trust, not lack. How do you let go without giving up? With a simple but transformative practice. Every time you catch yourself squeezing a goal, controlling a result, suffering for something that hasn't arrived yet, do the following. Place your hands on your chest, inhale deeply, and as you exhale, release your shoulders, your jaw, your belly. Say mentally, "I don't need to control what I already asked for," and then visualize yourself walking, without looking back, with space in your hands to receive. Do this for 7 consecutive days and observe how your vibration changes, not because you stop desiring, but because you start desiring without depending. True magnetism doesn't appear when you give up, but when you stop clinging as if your life depended on the result. And there, right there, is when everything starts to turn toward you. Not because you demand it, but because you're ready to sustain it without destroying it. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the final principle that unites everything. The vibration of worthiness. Because you don't attract what you desire, You attract what you believe you deserve in silence. And that worthiness isn't shouted, it's radiated. Chapter 10. The silent energy of worthiness. True magnetism doesn't push, doesn't beg. It only radiates a quiet certainty. I am already worthy of receiving. Being magnetic isn't having more. It's being capable of sustaining without guilt what already corresponds to you. And if you don't work on your energy of worthiness, you can be doing everything right, but your field will keep emitting doubt. I'll tell you a real story. Thomas, technology entrepreneur, brilliant, creative, but every time a big client chose him, something went wrong. Failed presentations, anxiety in meetings, decisions that sabotaged him. Once, after losing an important contract, he told me, "I feel like I'm not ready, as if all this were too much for me." And there it was. It wasn't his product, it was his emotional vibration. The problem wasn't that he didn't know. It was that he didn't believe he was worth enough to sustain what he was asking for. This happens to more people than it seems. They don't say it out loud, but the body reveals it. Tense shoulders when they charge, discomfort when receiving praise, guilt when prioritizing themselves. The energy of worthiness is silent but very powerful. It doesn't manifest in positive phrases, but in how you walk, how you charge, how you breathe when something good arrives to you. Being magnetic isn't acting strong. It's inhabiting a vibration so coherent that the world starts to reflect it without resistance. So how is it trained? It starts small. Do something this week that your magnetic self would already do without fear. Charge with clarity, rest without asking permission, speak from the center without justifying yourself. Observe how your body reacts. If there's tension, don't flee. Breathe, stay and repeat in silence. This is also me and it's safe to sustain it. Do it once a day for 7 days, because deserving isn't a mental decision. It's an energy that's installed through emotional repetition. When your body starts to associate the good with safety, you no longer need to ask or convince. You just emit, and the field responds. Because the field isn't guided by your words, but by your deep vibration. And the true magnetic being isn't the one who waits to be chosen. It's the one who already chooses themselves in silence every day. In the next chapter, you're going to discover how everything you can't attract may be tied to one thing. The fact that you're still pretending it doesn't hurt, that you don't care, that everything's fine, and the field notices it. And only when you become so real that you no longer pretend anything is when magnetism becomes inevitable. Chapter 11. The field listens to you when you no longer pretend. The universe doesn't respond to your mask. It responds to the vibration you emit when you finally take off the disguise. There's something no one tells you in personal growth books. You can do everything right. You can visualize, repeat affirmations, build impeccable routines. But if underneath all that you keep hiding what you feel, if you keep pretending it doesn't hurt, that you're not afraid, that you're fine when you're not, your energy fragments and the field perceives it. I met Diego at a workshop on finance and energy. He was intelligent, disciplined, applied, but his body spoke something else. He had a clenched jaw, tense fists, short breathing. One afternoon after a dynamic, he broke down. He said, "I'm tired of doing everything right and nothing working." And in that instant, something in the room changed. Because for the first time, he stopped pretending. And by doing so, his field became true, without pretension, without control, without mask. That's being magnetic. It's not seeming successful. It's allowing yourself to be so real that your energy finally aligns with your soul. The most dangerous mask isn't the one you use in front of others. It's the one you use with yourself. That one that says, "I'm fine, I already overcame it." It's nothing. When inside you're still carrying guilt, fear, shame, anger. Money doesn't need you to be perfect, but it does need you to be congruent. Because if you use personal growth to cover your pain instead of going through it, then the field feels it and gets confused, and what you attract is confusing too. The practice here is simple but requires courage. Take a moment just for yourself this week and write one truth you haven't fully told yourself yet. Something that hurts you, that embarrasses you, that you've hidden. And then, without judging, read it out loud to yourself and say, "This is also me and I deserve to be loved like this." Do it once without expectations, just so your body hears it. Because when you stop fighting with what you are, your field stops emitting struggle and starts emitting presence. Being magnetic isn't showing only your luminous part. It's sustaining your entire humanity without fragmenting inside. And when you do that, the universe stops responding to you for what you pretend and starts responding to you for what you finally dared to be. In the next chapter, you're going to discover why magnetism doesn't depend on how many things you do, but on how much available energy you have. Because if you're full of noise, people, ideas, and habits that no longer sustain you, there's no space for money, clarity, or abundance to enter. And the secret isn't doing more, it's becoming space. Chapter 12, Becoming Space. More energy, less effort. Magnetism isn't built by doing more, but by freeing what no longer sustains your vibration. Have you ever been in a room full of noise? Loud music, crossed conversations, flickering lights. In that place, even if something important is happening, you can't hear it. That happens with your energetic field. When you're full of things, commitments that no longer mean anything, people who drain, inherited thoughts, habits you repeat out of custom, your energy gets saturated, and what you want to attract can't find space to enter. It's not that it's not available, it's that you don't have a place to receive it. I'll tell you something I experienced up close. Sandra, holistic therapist, had been feeling stuck for years. More courses, more clients, more hours, but increasingly exhausted. One day, after listening to one of my audiobooks, she wrote to me, "I think the problem isn't that I lack energy. It's that it's trapped in things that no longer resonate with me." And she started doing something simple. Every week she let go of one thing: a toxic client, a project that didn't inspire her, a routine she did out of obligation. In 3 months, without changing anything else, her billing went up, her health improved, and for the first time in years, she said she felt light. Real magnetism is like a clean field. It doesn't attract by effort. It attracts by free, available, unoccupied vibration. When you're full of duties that don't represent you, your energy loses direction. And when you empty yourself of what doesn't sustain you, the field returns to center. Being magnetic is this: not doing more things, but doing only what sustains your highest vibration. And that requires letting go. Practical exercise. Take a sheet and write, "What am I sustaining that no longer vibrates with me?" Write without censorship: people, routines, habits, ideas, old goals. Choose just one thing, and during this week let it go with awareness. Every day repeat, "My field expands when I dare to leave space." You're going to feel discomfort, but also a new force that starts to move inside you. Because being magnetic isn't being full. It's being so clear that your mere presence attracts opportunities you didn't even see before. Money doesn't enter what's saturated. It enters where there's space to sustain it without resistance. And the universe doesn't seek the one who does the most, but the one who can sustain the most without getting lost in effort. In the next chapter, we reach the closure of this transformation. You're going to understand why being magnetic isn't attracting things. It's sustaining what arrives without breaking, without betraying yourself, and without returning to the fear from before. Because true magnetism isn't a state you visit. It's an identity you embody. Chapter 13. Being magnetic isn't attracting, it's sustaining without losing yourself. The difficult thing isn't that something arrives. The difficult thing is continuing to be you when you have it in front of you. Attracting is done by anyone. It's done by the one who wants something with force, who visualizes, who repeats phrases, who pushes with the mind. But sustaining, that's different. Sustaining requires energetic maturity, emotional presence, and above all, internal coherence. It's easy to shine when you're searching. It's easy to do rituals, follow steps, consume content. But when things arrive, when money enters, when opportunity appears, when someone truly sees you, that's where you see who you really are. I know many people who manifested what they wanted: a promotion, a partner, an economic expansion, and shortly after they sabotaged it, lost it, broke it with their own hands. Why? Because they weren't ready to sustain what they had attracted. Your magnetism isn't proven when everything is yet to come. It's proven when you have it and you don't overflow. You don't justify. You don't go back into hiding. Being magnetic is being capable of continuing to be you, even when what you desired is already here, without shrinking, without doubting your value, without having to become someone else so they don't take it away from you. And that's trained with every boundary you set without guilt, with every rest you take without excuse, with every decision you make without betraying yourself to please, because your field isn't strengthened by what you do when something is missing, but by what you keep sustaining when you finally have it. Final exercise. Make a list of the good things you've already attracted in your life, even if they're small. And ask yourself, Am I inhabiting them, or do I still have fear of losing them? Am I vibrating in presence or in anxiety of retaining? If there's tension, return to yourself. Breathe and remember, sustaining what arrives is also an act of worthiness. Being magnetic isn't attracting more, it's attracting better from an identity that no longer explains or defends itself. It just radiates. And from now on, you no longer need to prove anything. Your field says it all. Thank you for having come this far. If this book spoke to you, if something you heard resonated with what you're also living, I invite you to continue this path with the other audiobooks in this series. Stories, tools, and practices to keep expanding your vibration, your power, and your freedom, because you're no longer